Welcome back from the breakout rooms, everybody. I can see a lot of building, a lot of action on these cameras. So I am going to just introduce our mentors and get this Q&A started. This is your opportunity to ask our amazing mentors any questions you have. Please, teachers, I know that you guys are the ones running the chat. Type in chat if your students have any questions for our mentors. And I'm going to stop speaking and let them take it away. We have Dylan and Grace who are going to be leading this session. Again, I know that a lot of you are building, but please, if you have some questions for our mentors, don't hesitate to hop in chat with them. And I'm going to pass it off to Dylan to get us started.
All right, awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can get started. All right. While it loads, hold on. There we go. Can I get a thumbs up if you can see this? All right, awesome. So just to get us started, my name is Dylan. I am a junior at the University of Notre Dame. I'm a computer science major, so I do everything involved with computers and coding and programming. So if you have any interest in that, feel free to ask me questions. My main interests in engineering right now include artificial intelligence and machine learning and software engineering. So again, a lot of coding, programming. I know artificial intelligence is pretty big right now. If you guys know ChatGPT, I'll talk a little bit about that on my next slide here. So some things about me and what I've been up to. So when I was in high school, I went to school. I'm from New York. I went to high school in Jersey, all girls Catholic school. And I was kind of really excited about, trying to learn about what I wanted to major in college. I didn't really know my freshman year. And then my freshman year, I joined my robotics team. So I joined this team without knowing anything about engineering. It was kind of my first experience with robotics, coding, building anything like that. And that's kind of what introduced me to engineering. Um, so our robotics team was a team. It was kind of like a club, but also we were a team. We had a varsity team and a JV team. My sophomore year, I was captain of the JV team, and then my junior and senior year, I was captain of the varsity team. And we participated in the FTC First Tech Challenge, which was super cool. It was just a bunch of schools coming together and competing in different tasks and things like that with robotics. So every team would have a robot they would build it, code it, and then compete. Some other things I did in high school in terms of engineering, I created a coding club. So it was an intro to coding club. I was a co-founder of it, and I was vice president of it. Another thing I did was Perry Outreach, which was a really cool program in New York. If any of you schools are in the New York area, Perry Outreach is basically like an introduction to biomedical engineering. It's kind of there's an application for it, and then there's a whole day where you go in and you talk to people in the medical industry and people in the biomedical industry, and you just kind of get to do a lot of really cool experiences in that kind of that whole day they have. And then once I graduated, I went to University of Notre Dame. So I'm a computer science major here. So some cool things I did my freshman year. I was part of an animatronics workshop where we worked with a Disney Imagineer. That was a really cool experience where he wasn't necessarily here at school, but we got on Zoom with this really cool guy who worked at Disney Imagineering, and he had this thing where he created an animatronics workshop to show things to kind of introduce high schoolers and kids to animatronics. So we kind of introduced that here at Notre Dame. We worked with a school in the area where we kind of worked on an animatronics workshop where we taught kids how to build those animatronics. That summer, after my freshman year, I studied abroad in London. So that was a summer study abroad program where I was able to take 2 classes there. It was a 6-week program. That was really cool. Something really cool if you don't really know what to do over the summer is if your school has, when you go to college, a summer engineering or a summer study abroad program. It's a good way to get some extra credits in if you want to get ahead and take some more electives later on. Or if you maybe want to take a minor, that's also a really cool way to make some space for more classes in the future. So then the next year, I took a lot of computer science specific classes. And by the time I got to this past summer, I was working with a professor on campus here at Notre Dame on artificial intelligence research, which was really cool. It was definitely a really cool experience if you're interested in research. A lot of different colleges will have really great programs for undergrads to work on research with professors. So for me, I was working on artificial intelligence. If you guys know what ChatGPT is, it's very similar to that. I was working with a lot of the models and benchmarks that are very similar to ChatGPT and how that works. And then moving forward, next semester, I'm studying abroad in an exchange program in Hong Kong, which is super exciting. I will be there for the whole semester. And yeah, so just moving on a little bit, kind of similar to what I just did, but kind of some pictures of some cool things I've done. In the top left, you can see that's kind of what I did with the Perry Outreach Program. Like I said, it was biomedical kind of engineering. It was a whole expo day, and they gave us scrubs and they gave us a lot of really cool activities. So if you're interested in finding programs like that, this one was in New York, but I'm sure there's a lot of different things if you're interested in that based on what type of engineering you're interested in. You can find programs like that that kind of have experience days where you're going to get to be able to experience different things they do in that field. So that was Perry Outreach. I have a cast on that my friend put on me, and she cut it off me, and then I put a cast on her and cut it off her. That was really cool. And then on the right side, that's my robotics team. So these are both two things I did in high school. If you're interested in engineering, I highly recommend trying to find engineering related clubs and activities for you to do just to kind of get an idea of if you actually want to do this or not. Here at Notre Dame, again, the top right, I have a picture of our animatronics workshop. So that's just kind of a picture of us working with the kids. We made these paper animatronics. It's kind of hard to see in this picture, but the girl who we're working with in this picture, she made a paper Forky from Toy Story 4, I think. And we were able to get it to move and make noise, and we just kind of used little motors to do that. This was my experience in London. Super cool. Again, if you're interested in study abroad, feel free to ask me any questions. Then my sophomore year, I was working on a lot of code. This past summer, I was working with artificial intelligence code, which was really cool. And then next semester, I will be here. It's a really cool campus. It's really pretty. And I will get to take a bunch of engineering classes in Hong Kong, which I'm really excited about.
Awesome. Thank you, Dylan, for that. I'll take it off from here. So hi guys, my name is Grace. I'm a senior at Dartmouth College studying mechanical engineering and minoring in human-centered design. Some things that I'm just generally interested in within engineering is construction management. Also MEP design. MEP stands for mechanical, electrical, plumbing. So this means basically designing systems that help buildings actually function. And then lastly, sustainable building. I'm always interested in, how can we build cleaner and more sustainably, and how can we make, the world a better place? At Engineering Tomorrow, I'm a college mentor, and I also worked on the Q&A improvement project. Dylan, if you can move, awesome. So just a little bit about my path and my journey. So I graduated from high school in 2020, COVID year, super fun. But I did a variety of things in high school, and I actually had an engineering and architecture program very similar to what you guys are doing with Engineering Tomorrow. And that was where I kind of got to see what engineering really was and really sparked my interest in pursuing this as a full-time career. So I really loved that program, really loved the exposure I got. Some other things that I did in high school, I was on the newspaper club, which was very different than my engineering related interests. I was a volunteer for the Boys and Girls Club, which I loved. And I was on 3 different sports. Each year I was big into soccer, basketball, and lacrosse. So after 2020, I ended up moving on to Dartmouth. And throughout my time at Dartmouth, and I'll speak about some things that I've done here, I've also participated in, 2 key internships that have really shaped what I want to do with my life. The first one being a mechanical engineering intern for ME engineers in New York City. So this was, specifically MEP design, designing those systems that help make a building work. It involved a lot of software, a lot of calculations, and it was overall a really good experience. And then this past summer, I was a construction intern for AECOM Tishman in New York City. So this was super awesome. I was on an NYU hospital site every day. I got to be on my feet, not at a desk, and it was really, really fun. So those are just some jobs that I'm happy to speak about further and, going into networking and things like that. And then at Dartmouth, like I said, I'm a mechanical engineering major, human-centered design minor. Some things I do here on campus is I'm a research assistant, I'm a teaching assistant, so it's kind of someone who helps out with homework and things like that for classes. I'm a college mentor with Engineering Tomorrow, obviously. I'm a designer and project manager for the Dolly Lab, which is a techie type startup company thing on campus, which I really love and it's super fun. And then I'm a DHE team member. It's Dartmouth Humanitarian Engineers. So we make a lot of physical products that have really big societal impact. And then starting in August 2024, I'm very thankful that I will be starting my full-time job. And I will be returning to where I worked this summer as a project engineer for AECOM Tishman within healthcare construction. So that's a little bit about my path. If we can move to the next slide. Awesome. So here are just some photos of me and things that I've worked on. In the top left, that is something that I've done with the Dolly Lab. So I was a project manager for this AR VR application that we are hopefully going to launch soon. But that was a really cool experience. I didn't know a lot about VR AR products. And so it was really fun to get to know, the software and the platforms and just kind of managing that project as a whole. In the bottom left, that's me in MetLife Stadium. I was there for one of my internships. We were designing all the electrical systems for the baseball stadium. So like the scoreboard and things like that. So I was in the dugout there. It's really fun to be able to get on site and see those really cool things. In the middle here, that crazy diagram, that's a solar water heater project that I worked on. It's basically to help rural schools in Africa use less firewood for cooking because that's their current method for how to cook. And so this is actually, people on the team went to Uganda this summer to put it in, which is super cool. And then over on the right-hand side, you can see a sketch, really, really rough sketch. And then in the top, you see the bridge that we actually ended up making. And so that just kind of shows process. Everything starts, really simple. And then you can actually build something. And then we ended up crushing it and it held like thousands of pounds. It was super cool. And then just in that middle, that little like phone and computer, that's more stuff I do with Dolly. We made an app for, people that like herd cows and things like that. So that was a really cool experience to get to know that process. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I think now if you guys, I can see everyone's so busy working, which is awesome. But if you guys have any questions for Dylan and I, college related, life related, high school related, we're here to answer any questions that you guys have.
And I'm going to add bridge related because I think there's a bridge question in the chat from Miss Cooper's class. And it was asking about how to make a balance level on top of the arch if they're making an arch bridge. Any tips on balance on an arch, ladies?
That's
very bridge specific.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. If you could have some sort of flat piece on top of the arch, and that flat piece could be supported from the bottom up, if that makes sense. Because if you just have something free standing on top of an arch, it will kind of teeter and will not be super balanced. But having some sort of footing or support that extends past that arch could be super helpful. So you could definitely try that.
Yeah, I mean, I myself haven't built like a bridge with an arch before, but I have a friend who's an architecture major. And what he did was he had that kind of truss design. And he had the arches kind of underneath the top support parts of the arch so that you could put something on top of like the flat pieces while also having that arch there for extra support. So maybe kind of combining some of those ideas. We were talking in the breakout room earlier about kind of those combination designs where you're combining 2 different designs or 3 different designs. So taking that truss design while also having that arch there also might be a good way to figure out that balance issue where if you want to put something on top, trying to make sure that you have that flat part above the arch part.
Well, I'm going to say you ladies did a great job because we got a thumbs up from Miss Cooper's class. So thank you for handling that question so professionally on the fly with our bridge question. But this is your opportunity, classrooms. Teachers, get to your keyboards and start typing some questions for our amazing mentors. I have a question while we wait for the teachers to type in chat. Is you guys have so many projects, so many groups that you're a part of. How do you manage your time?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, Grace, you go ahead.
No, you're good. Take it off.
All right. So I think for me, I have a kind of in my head at least I have a list of all the things that I need to do, right? I have my homework, I have my exams, I have to study, I have to do projects, I have all my activities. I have to get to class, I have to make time for lunch and dinner and meeting my friends. There's just so many different things that you kind of need to keep track of. Because when you guys are in high school, right, you have your whole day kind of planned out. You wake up, you go to school, you're in the school building all day, you're in the same place, kind of your classes are scheduled to fill up the whole day. You get out, you do your clubs and activities and sports, then you get home and you do your homework and you go to bed. Um, in college is a little different. You definitely have a lot more free time to kind of figure out where you're going to put things. Your daily schedule is going to be a little more spaced out with your classes. So something I always suggest is using Google Calendar or whatever calendar app you like the best. I like Apple Calendar, and all my friends kind of hate on me for it. They're like, no, Google Calendar is better. Um, but just kind of something to organize yourself so you know, like I have a list of when all my assignments are due for the whole semester, because a lot of professors will put that out during syllabus week at the very beginning of the semester, where they'll say, okay, this is when your exams are, this is when your homeworks are due, already preset, so you already know. So you can kind of have a head start and keep ahead of your work. So trying to do things as early as you can, not waiting to the last minute, is really important. And then making sure also it's important to have time for yourself too and do the things you want to do. So making sure you make time for seeing your friends, and if you have a really busy day you're not going to see anyone, make sure you're getting dinner with your friends and text your friends, just say, oh, I want to do weekly dinners on Thursday nights with you. That's always a good way to get to see people when you're really busy during the week. And then making sure your weekends too have a little bit of free time. So for me, I kind of leave Saturdays free because at Notre Dame football is really big. So I make sure that my Saturdays are pretty free so I can enjoy the football games, whether it's an away game or a home game, watching it on the TV or in the stadium. But yeah, Grace, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, those are all really good points, Dylan. I would say for that, one big thing, I'm big with my calendar, which is huge, but I also love to write things down. I have like my notebook right here with everything written down. So I like to kind of look at my calendar and write things, but I think when you have so many things going on at once, what I find really helpful is to like, so for example, last night before I went to bed, I picked like 3 or 4 like main things for that I wanted to get done today. And that doesn't necessarily cover everything, but it covers definitely something. And then I kind of adjust that each day. Otherwise, it feels super overwhelming when you have so many different things and you're like, how am I going to get this all done? So kind of divvying it up per day is super helpful. I see a question in the chat from Louisville High School about how do engineers come up with different designs? And how do you test your designs without wasting resources, such as building materials and money? So what I would say for this is, I think, and it's hard because sometimes engineers get caught up in the super technical mindset, but I think what's important is to start really, really broad and really, really crazy. Like start with the wildest, most ridiculous, not feasible ideas ever. And so where you go from there is to prove why those crazy things don't work, rather than proving like why something really specific and technical does work. So you're trying to like prove why something is wrong versus proving why something is right. And so, yes, just start crazy and then narrow in from there. And you can take really feasible things from really crazy ideas and kind of combine them into one awesome idea is a really good way to brainstorm and come up with different designs. And then testing, I think, test with like, materials that you can find, like construction paper, like try to test the concept and not necessarily the product if you were trying to save, materials and money and things like that, just because testing concept will give you a lot of insight into whether something works or not. And then from there, you can kind of narrow down on one final design and really, put your money into that final product for testing. But Dylan, do you have any insight on that question?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely love the idea of like kind of coming up with the craziest thing possible. I think something I do definitely is coming up with something that's, you really hope will work and you're really like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but this is the ideal way. Like in my head, this is how I imagine it. And it might be crazy or it might be something that isn't necessarily possible. And then combining the ideas you take from that, and coming up with the most basic, generic, boring idea. So kind of coming up with both sides of the spectrum for me is something I do. Coming up with like the crazy thing, and then also how could I do this just to get the bare minimum? And then kind of finding your way in between to make it really cool and really exciting and get that creative side of it while also making it efficient and do what it needs to do. So kind of, I think you need to take both sides into account. And then in terms of testing the designs also, it's hard, right? It's definitely hard to, you know, test something and then think, oh, it's going to work. And then all of a sudden it all breaks and you wasted all that material, you wasted all that money. But that's just part of the engineering design process. As much as we'd like to say the first time we do it, it's going to be the right way to do it, or it's not going to break or be a waste of time. But that's just not entirely possible with every project. Like sometimes you'll get lucky and it'll be great the first time you do it. But that's why the engineering design process is such a cyclical, circular process. You're always going back and changing things. And yeah, it's disappointing when you fail. But we were talking in the breakout room about our favorite quotes about failure leading to success. Super cool that, with engineering, if you fail, if you do something that doesn't work, you can always come back from it and fix it. And especially with just an example from me with my research this summer, something you'll notice if you ever do work on a research project is research projects take a really long time. That's why undergrads, with an undergrad like me, when I was working on it, I had a very short period of time. So I just wasn't able to do much because research projects within engineering just take a long time, or with anything, it takes a long time. So for my project, I started with one idea and I spent probably 6 weeks of my research working on this one idea in the project, only to learn on the 6th week that it wasn't possible and it wasn't going to work. So I had to completely transition and do something different for the last 4 weeks of my internship. So things like that kind of it's a little disappointing when you waste time and you waste your money and you waste your resources, but that's just inevitable with engineering and with any project like this. But we do our best to kind of avoid that when we can. We did get another question. Do you think there will be any changes in the design or building materials for bridges in light of climate change? It's a really great question because talking about climate change, especially with the engineering we do in resources outside, especially, and just kind of how that works. I don't know if there's going to be any changes in the, I don't know. I mean, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's definitely possible. I have a lot of friends who are in materials engineering, so that'd be a really cool question to ask them and see what their professors are saying about that. As a computer science major, I'm not really in classes like that. But definitely talking to, if you're interested in that, there's definitely resources online that you can find about how the different ways we're using certain materials and collecting certain materials might affect different ways we're building things. Do you have anything to say about that, Grace?
Yeah, definitely. So what I would say from my experience, I took a solid mechanics class that was all about building bridges. And while it is really important to, think about the compressive and tensive forces that are, part of bridge design, what's really, really crucial for a bridge is how it's, standing on the ground. So is it a pinned connection? Is it a fixed connection? Things like that. And so whatever that connection is to the ground is really crucial to what kind of forces the bridge is going to be able to withstand. And so, with climate change, for bridges whose foundation sits in water, that will really affect kind of the strength and durability of that bridge. And like Dylan was saying, materials is going to be a huge part of that. So finding materials that are durable, that can withstand, possible changes in, water current or, the water content, things like that, will really, really definitely, I think, affect the strength of bridges. And so materials will have to change with that as well. And also thinking about how would they ground that bridge in water that might be ever changing going forwards. But yeah, that's an awesome question. Thank you guys for that. I see another question in the chat. Are engineering skills useful for non-engineers? I would say yes, definitely, definitely, definitely. I think with engineering, people can get caught up in oh, it's so technical, it's so complicated. But to be an engineer, you have to have equal amounts of soft and hard skills. And that's something, that Dartmouth really does emphasize in our curriculum here is it's not just about being right. And it's not just about being the smartest person in the room, but it's being able to work with other people, be on a team. That's how things work in the world. You can't get anything done by yourself. And so being an engineer and taking those, project-based classes, you're forced to be on a team constantly. And so you're learning those soft skills, you're practicing them. And those are things that when you walk away from an engineering degree, you're going to have those soft skills that you can bring, into the workforce, regardless of what job you do, or into relationships with your friends, with your family. Like it really does help you as a person. I strongly believe that. And so it's not just about the technical stuff. Yes, it's cool to learn math and science and know all of those things, but there's way more to it. And so it's really important to keep in mind the hard and the soft. That's what engineering really is. But Dylan, do you have anything else with that?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think I have a lot of friends who are in engineering majors who aren't necessarily looking to get an engineering position once they graduate, or aren't looking for engineering jobs. I think sometimes a big way to kind of use your engineering skills is in the business world, where if you're working for a company that's a very technical company, or even just has software or something that the company is working on and its main focus might be engineering related. But then you're working on the other side of it. You kind of need to know the ins and outs of what your project is, or what your software, how your software works, and how to communicate with the other employees at that company who are working on that software. If you're working on the sales side or the business side, you might need to be able to figure out, okay, well, these are the things that are part of this technical side of it, where I need to be able to sell this to someone, or I need to be able to kind of work with the other people at this company. So definitely having that background too. If you're looking to get an engineering degree, but you're not necessarily looking to work in engineering, there's definitely so many different ways you can use some of those skills for different positions also.
And I'm sure you just saw in the chat, Thomas County Central said they got an undergraduate degree in engineering, and it made law school seem easy after that. So definitely engineering skills will assist in all aspects. So I just want to hop in. We have 4 minutes left. So I'm going to hop in with one last question for our mentors to answer, and then they will wrap up. So I like to do this during our days because we have so many students live and so many students who are watching the recording. What's a piece of advice that you want to give to our high school students who are here live or watching the recording in their high school career to move forward down their journey? Grace,
Yeah.
you want to hop in?
Yeah. Great question, Monica. I would say keep an open mind and don't be too hard on yourself. I feel like for me, I've always been my worst critic, in high school and in college. I take everything maybe a little too seriously. But it's important to have fun with it. And I think now that I'm a senior in college and I'm kind of reflecting on all the time I had in high school and the times that I had here when I was super stressed and overwhelmed about everything, I'm trying to really just pull the fun out of, what I get with learning engineering, and how grateful I am to be able to learn those things. And so just being open-minded about whichever way your path goes, and not critiquing yourself every step along the way, I think is just really, really important. And so, yeah, just trying to pull the fun out of everything, enjoy learning. It is really a beautiful thing. And so, yeah, that would be my piece of advice. Dylan, what about you?
Yeah, I think my piece of advice is a little bit twofold. So the first side of it, I think definitely taking advantage of kind of everything you can. When you're in high school, if you see a club or an activity that might be interesting, try and join it. You can always quit. You don't have to follow it through. If you don't like it, you don't have to continue with it. When you're in college, if you are in a class and your professor has office hours, go to office hours. Everyone's gonna say it, and you're not gonna do it. That's just something that everyone does. Everyone says their advice, go to office hours, and then no one does it. But I'm the same way. I was told go to office hours, and then I didn't until my sophomore year of college. Highly recommend it. Talking to your professors is great, and getting that advice from them, and just don't talk to them about homework. Talk to them about their research or their positions or things they've done. They love that. That's what they want. And then other activities too, like joining clubs in college, joining engineering activities and projects and things like that. Definitely take advantage of what you have available to you. And that leads me to the other side of it. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. If it's not something you're interested in or excited about, you're not going to put as much effort into it as other people who might care about it. So if you're, looking at a club and you say, oh, I should join this club, it's like an engineering volunteer club that, I probably should join because I know a lot of people there. But if it's not what you want to do, then don't do it. If you want to add a minor, if you have room in your schedule for a minor, I was highly considering adding a minor. I decided not to originally apply for study abroad because I thought, oh, well, I have so much space in my schedule, I could fit a minor, but I just didn't really want to do it. And I kind of realized after I spent a little more time thinking about it as I like kind of audited a class, it just wasn't really what I wanted. So if you're not interested in adding a minor, just don't do it. Your major is enough, and what you're doing is enough. And you're going to be able to fill that time with things that you actually enjoy and things you're actually interested in and excited about. So with clubs, minors, double majors, if you're not interested in it, just don't do it. But again, taking advantage of the good things that you have that you are excited about.
All right. On that note, I want to say thank you to Dylan and Grace for leading such a great Q&A. I want to say congratulations on all your achievements. Grace, congratulations on the new job coming your way. And Dylan, excited about Hong Kong. Amazing, amazing experiences. And your journey is amazing. We can't wait to hear more about it in the future. So now it's time for you guys to head back into the breakout rooms. And those will open up right now.